Okay, so I was watching this video called Snakes Have Legs from this guy named Danny Cassell, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name exactly, but it's just this funny animation that I remember being, it was like, I think 2 years ago that it came out, and I just thought it was really funny, and I wanted to watch it, and then I was thinking like, oh yeah, like I could make a video about that and have a conversation about it, put it on a podcast, just because it's not really about the content of the video. It's a little bit about it. It's not specifically that. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a link at the end of this video on YouTube that goes to the original content that I'm referencing. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can just type it into YouTube, Snakes Have Legs, and you'll find it. But it made the rounds on on Facebook quite a lot. I think it was like 10 million views or something on Facebook. So it was very very funny because it's true. So a little recap on that quick, because again, it's not really about that, but it sparks an idea. So basically, this dude is like sitting there, and his friend comes, and he's like, "Hey, snakes have legs," and he's like, "Oh, really? Cool. I'm gonna go tell everyone snakes have legs." And then the dude's just sitting there, like real content with himself, or I don't know, telling his buddy this thing. And then a snake comes up, and he's like, "Whoa, are you a snake?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I heard you have legs." He's like, "Well, the snake's basically like, you're dumb. Why would you say that? Why would you think that? Like, did you get this information from a reputable news source?" And he's like, "It's called the Daily Testicle." He's like, "Hey, you believe that?" And I mean, the snake is there in full view, does not have legs, and then the snake's telling him like, "Well, don't be dumb. Like, don't be dumb on the internet. Like, that's really dumb. You shouldn't do that." And then the dude just like unfriends him, and then he's by himself, and he's like, "Snakes have legs," and it just more so than like the message of like, "Hey, you should check your sources and also be responsible on the internet before spreading information that other dumb idiots might spread," and then it becomes this huge domino effect of idiocy and false facts and things like that. Besides that message, because that's not what this is about, it was more, it just got me thinking about like, why can't people admit that they're wrong? Because this thing at the very end where he's like, he like calls him out, he's like, "Why would you believe that?" Like, he doesn't say this, but it's like, "Look, I'm a snake, and you asked me if I'm a snake, and I said I'm a snake, and you can see that I'm a snake, and you confirmed that I am therefore a snake, and you believe I'm a snake, and then I'm telling you I do not have legs, you can see I do not have legs, and yet you believe this thing that you didn't check sources, you didn't like do any research, and you started spreading this information. Like, there's this amazing new thing that really isn't true and doesn't exist." And then yeah, he just like unfriends him. He's like, "Oh crap!" Like, I don't know what the thought process is there, but it's like, "Oh crap, I'm wrong." Unfriend. And I've had that happen to me on Facebook before, like challenging like acquaintances, in one way or another, just like challenging them because of something they've said or contradicting themselves, or in this way, like challenging them on a piece of information, or trying to be educational or something, and then people like unfriend or block you or whatever when they're wrong, and it's like, okay, well, that's more affirmation that I'm right, I guess. But it just, unfortunately, it's one of those things that just gets to me and like bothers me like no end, or to no end, because I just like, I don't know, it just does. It's just, maybe it's because I don't get the last word in, or I don't know. Either way, it's affirmation that I'm right, is how I feel about it. So I try not to like get worked up about it. But at the same time, that's the thing I wanted to talk about, was just, it's so frustrating when someone can't admit they're wrong, when they know they're wrong. There's a difference between admitting you're wrong when you don't know you're wrong at all, but there's plenty of times, and I've probably been guilty of this, not probably, I've been guilty of this too, for sure. I can't think of an example at this moment. I know why. I know that there's reasons why people don't want to admit when they're wrong, because it could be embarrassing, you want to save face, it's different than lying. Well, there's so many reasons to lie, but I mean, like, when you and the other party both know you're wrong, you should admit you're wrong. Like, that's the thing. If you know that they know, and you know that they know that you know you're wrong, does that make sense? Is that a riddle? I hope that's not confusing, but I mean, like, if I am the party that is wrong and I know that the other party knows that I know I'm wrong, why keep it going? Why keep it going? I don't get that. It's so much worse. Like, among acquaintances, among strangers, among friends, it's even. I think like the more intimate your relationship, obviously the worse it is because you have less and less and less reason to keep that going. Because like I said, it's not the same as lying, but I mean, in a way, it is pretending you're right when you know you're wrong, and you don't have any evidence to prove you're right, and it's just a stupid thing, or just like I don't know, it's just this thing that I've dealt with before with certain people in my life, and like people that aren't in my life anymore, and whatever, and like I said, then strangers and stuff too. No matter what, it bothers me because I'm like, why can't you just say, yeah, I made a mistake, I screwed up, there it is. Like, there's no moving forward by pretending. There's no moving forward when you keep saying, you keep defending your position that you know isn't true. You know that you're wrong. The sooner you cop to it, the better. And you keep it going and going and going and going. And the thing with me, is fortunately or unfortunately or whatever, probably more unfortunately, I don't really. There's times where like I can let things go, but I don't fully 100% let it go. Really, like if it's unresolved, and this would be an instance of unresolved. If someone is cornered and they're wrong, and they know that I know that they're wrong, but that they don't end up admitting it, they don't end up like whatever. Like, let's say I drop it, I'm just like, hey, whatever. Like, I'm just not having this conversation anymore. I'm not going to push it and push it and push it. I don't forget about it. Like, it just doesn't happen. I just don't forget about it. And then it comes up again later because to me that's unresolved. So when they do something else that's relevant, I remember it and I still end up holding it against them even though I didn't force it then. Like, I asked and then it doesn't, like, ugh. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting like too vague in general and specific at the same time. I just don't, like I said, it's really, like, I'm sure, like, I don't know when the last time I've done this was. I've been trying just in my recent years or whatever to obviously communicate more effectively, admit when I'm wrong, therefore I can move on. Like, again, there's just nothing, I just don't, it's really difficult to, like, think about, like, am I, like, shaming people either that I know or that I don't know for doing this when I don't know how recently I stopped doing it. It's one of those things that in theory makes a lot of sense and is valuable, and I don't know who would argue against it, so then just stop doing it. But that's also, like, in theory, I could eat healthier and whatever else, because that makes way more sense, that I just need to stop eating, like, garbage. So, I don't know if it's something like that for some people, or what it is, like, that there's no way you can deny that this is improper behavior, but you just keep doing it, and I don't know, it just blows my mind sometimes. I just don't, like I said, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm not. I don't. I don't know. I just don't. I don't get it. Like I said, especially when you are closer to that person and you have a more intimate relationship, or like like a close relationship, is all I mean. It's just even worse because then you can't trust the person. And there's animosity that builds, and there's other things that happen, and it's like I said, this is different than like a misunderstanding or miscommunication. It's different. It's like I said, it's really frustrating and interesting when both parties know what's going on, and the one person holds their position and digs in with both heels and refuses to admit fault or wrong or what have you. And I think that it's really destructive to relationships. That should be obvious. I don't understand the purpose unless that person wants to sabotage the relationship. Because that's what I believe is happening. And I don't understand why. I don't know. There's plenty of things people do, including me, that probably are self-destructive or sabotage relationships or we gamble. But I mean, it's just one of those things where once you're busted, you're busted. Like, what can you do? You have to just face facts. Like, if there's no wiggle room to get out of it and the other party knows what's up, why keep it going? And the more I talk about it, the more I'm realizing how I've done this, even in the past year. So it's not that I'm not guilty of it. I guess I really pushed for that wiggle room, I guess, and tried to keep creating more wiggle room to create doubt. But again, that's more with lying than it is with, like, a factual, like, this is what happened, here's the evidence of what happened, you can't refute the evidence, that's it. Like, stop. At that point is when it becomes the lie, when that person won't admit that, like, they're just like, well, no, I thought, I don't even know. I can't even. We got to that point already. I can't even. Like I said, to me, it's different than lying. I think that it involves lying at a level. Once that person won't admit that they're wrong, I think that is the lie. It becomes a lie. It's stupid. It doesn't. I just don't get it. There's no moving forward. There's no moving forward with yourself as an individual when you do that. There's no moving forward with the other person, with that topic, with whatever. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me as to why someone would do that. And it's super frustrating and just like. So we talked. I mean, I just spoke a little bit about like more like close relationships and how that it can be destructive to the relationship. But I mean, what happens when it's like an acquaintance that you have on Facebook that you haven't seen in years, don't care about, don't talk to? It's so frustrating to me. And like I said, it's happened where very much like the end of that video, Snakes Have Legs, someone just like unfriend, block, and then you know, being on the other end of that, being like, yeah, well, I guess you didn't want to look like an idiot on Facebook or something. Like you could just delete my comments or block me or did whatever. But like, you're just preventing me from challenging you again in the future. Like, I just don't. I just don't know. Like I said, I understand that someone might be embarrassed or whatever, but this makes it worse, does it not? Does it, like, and how do you feel with yourself? How do you feel after you do that? Like, does that feel good? Like, I don't, like, I've never been on that end of it where someone has challenged me, and I've been like, oh, they're right, well, screw them, and then I block them, or I stop talking to them, or on whatever scale the relationship is. I don't think I've ever just been like, oh, they're right, and I'm wrong, and they caught me, so screw them. And you get angry, and you disengage. I don't think I've ever done that. Like, I just don't. And again, I don't understand it. Like, it's a indicator of something that I don't even know what to call it, because I don't think it's just idiocy. Like, I just don't. It's one of those things I just don't understand. I can't comprehend it. I'm trying to find, like I said, to me, and I guess it's just a lack of logic and reasoning is what it is. Because there's no moving forward. How do you feel good about doing that? How do you feel good about you knowing you're wrong, someone calling you out on being wrong, and then you making sure that person can never call you out on it again and never challenge you again, and you still don't admit that you're wrong, and you don't move forward, and you just stay in that spot? Like, it's just how, like, I just don't understand how someone can do that and feel good about it. Like, wouldn't you feel better just being like, yeah, man, I screwed up, or yeah, like, sometimes it's just a simple, small thing. They're not even big things. There's very simple, small things. They're like, oh yeah, I misunderstood. It could be the fact that they misunderstood, but they won't admit that they misunderstood. And then it turns into this other thing. Ugh. I don't know. I just think, like, on this topic of being wrong, everyone's wrong. Like, this, again, sometimes I feel like I'm talking about things that are so stupidly obvious that I don't know why I'm talking about them. But I'm getting stuck in this point of, like, the fact that there's no moving forward, right? There's no moving forward if you can't admit your faults. And then, I mean, that's just the first step is like, oh, I realized, like, I did that thing wrong. Whatever that is. It could be something with yourself, with another person. It could be trying to fix your bike. I don't even know. You're like, oh yeah, I screwed that up. Like, imagine if that was the thing. Compare it to, you know, you're doing something, like you're trying to put your spare tire on or something, and you did it wrong, but you won't admit you did it wrong, and so you keep just doing the same thing over again. Or what do? Like, you just, you know, like, you throw the tire iron away and walk away from it? Or is that the equivalent of blocking somebody when they're wrong? Like, I just don't get it. Like, you won't move. You won't get back on the road. Like, this is a stupid analogy. But I just feel like if you actually have that behavior that you're exhibiting towards someone else and you apply it inwards, like, with that analogy, you just don't move. Like, you don't get going. Who does that? You know, you learn from that mistake. That's it. Like, it's something that we talk about all the time in education and, like, taking risks and, like, don't be afraid to be wrong, because how else do you learn? You learn, you know, we're not talking about memorization. We're talking about learning. and using critical thinking skills and things like that. And that happens when you're wrong, when you make a mistake, when you just didn't do something, or like the thing didn't work out the way you planned, and you learn either to appreciate how it did work out, or learn something about the process, or about what you want to do for next time, like whatever. It's all learning and growing and whatever. And it's just, there's none of that if you can't even admit that something didn't work out the way you wanted to. And that's the thing, like with art, if I'm going to relate it to art, it's not even doing something wrong. It's just like sometimes like, oh, this is not what I had planned. And then you can accept that sometimes. It's like, yeah, this isn't what I had planned, but this is pretty great anyway. But if you just stay on no, this is exactly what I wanted, this is exactly it, but you feel like this is horrible, like this is not good, I don't like it, but you're saying that you do, what are you going to do with that piece? You can't even accept, like, it's not what I had planned, but it's great in this other way. I'm just going to change the title of it. This is an example of this is a symbol for this, or whatever. Or you end up saying, this is not what I planned. How do I analyze this and move forward? How do I change this? How can I fix this right now? Or how can I make it different with the next piece? Like, there's so many different ways you can go, but how do you go anywhere if you can't even admit the one thing? That it's like, yeah, this is flawed. This is not what I wanted. This is not aesthetic. This is not functional. This is not whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And when you're out there throwing out, information or misinformation or saying things without really thinking, or you're, whatever it is, you're doing all that, and then you can't, someone challenges you, whether it's like, something challenges you, and you just can't make that first step to just be like, not to realize you're wrong, to admit you're wrong. It's so different. Like I'm saying, we're talking about examples here when you have been confronted with the truth, you have been confronted with the facts, there is no not believing the facts. You know that this is what happened, this is the truth, this is the evidence, it's here. Okay, I understand how I made this mistake now. Whatever the moving forward is, the moving forward looks different every time, but you can't do that with yourself or with someone else until you make that first admission of, yes, I see now, I just made this small mistake, like, you're right, I just bunged this up and that's it. And again, like I said, it bothers me with everybody, with any interaction I would ever have, it just doesn't make sense. Saving face doesn't make sense. And it's not like I've never done that or I still don't do that. I do understand it. You want people to think that you're a good person. You want them to believe that you are the person that you want to, well, not always that you want to be. I mean, whatever. This thing's going to blow up into a whole different thing and go off the rails as per usual. But the thing is that, like, if you want to be perceived in a certain way for a certain scenario. And again, this is a differentiation from lying. This is about being wrong and then not choosing to admit it. And maybe you're not admitting it because you want to give this perception that whatever it is in that scenario. So it's again, it's not like someone asking, like, did you do this thing? And you say, no, I did not do that thing, when you know you have, and therefore you're lying to protect yourself from the consequences of lying, or the consequences of telling the truth. Because talking about when both parties know that you are wrong, the consequences of the truth are still there. Like, if you know the other person knows that you are wrong, the consequences are there whether you admit it or not. The only thing that's not there is any opportunity for growth or for moving forward in that relationship or that journey of whatever, like yourself or whatever you want to have as the example. That's the only thing that's not there. But like the consequences of the action of being wrong in that scenario still apply if the other person knows. So it makes it so much worse when you won't admit it. I feel like I'm done talking about this. I like it's splinter off into so many different things and so many different contexts and so many other conversations. Again, I just get to that point where I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand any scenario where you need to save face, if that's what it is, because you're not saving face. You're not. It's not a good thing. Like, admitting that you made a mistake is the only way to save face. That's the only way to do it. That's the only way to just move on and move forward and be right with yourself and whoever the other party is that knows you. Again, this doesn't even have to be a big thing, like a serious thing. It could be just such a small thing, like, oh, yeah, I guess I should have checked that news article. Like, oh, wow, I guess I screwed up. Hey, like, I should definitely do that more in the future. That simple. And I don't think someone's going to hold it against you. Be like, yeah, you idiot. Why did you do that? Be like, well, I just said that I made a mistake and I'm going to move forward. So now if you're calling me an idiot for or whatever, then, that's on you now. And now tables will turn. Anyway, I don't really know how to end this conversation. So I'm going to end it right there. I don't get it, and I think it's dumb.